Awesome, awesome. Well, welcome everybody to today's session. We have 38 attendees from all over the world. So I want to give a special shout out to every single one of you who's joined us today. I know some of you are probably at 2 a.m.s right now, or some of you are early 5 a.m. if you're from, not sure if it's Australia, probably about 7 at this time. Welcome. As just a little quick, can I let us know where you're calling from or where dialing from? Put it in the chat. I'm going to allow here with those three dots again, an option to communicate with others. You can introduce yourself, you can put your LinkedIn profile, but I really would love to see where you're joining us from. And what are you looking to get from today's session? Quite frankly, I am probably the most excited I've been because I know Mike and I know his knowledge is insanely great in the field of AI, and I'll introduce him in a second. But before I do that, I would like to just kind of start with the housekeeping items. We will be sharing the recording to all the stuff with you after, I think by the end of tomorrow or the day after. So any slides, any summary or tools that we will mention, you will have it delivered to your inbox. If you are also following us on YouTube, we'll broadcast this there. And if you are following us on Facebook, this video will be ready pretty much immediately. You can leave your questions in the chat. Rest assured, we'll get to the majority of them. And I'm pretty sure you're going to have some today. Leverage Mike's knowledge in the topic of AI and particularly ethical and implementation when it comes to marketing. So, so far we've gotten some shout outs from Mexico City, Taco City. All right. Alfredo, welcome. We got people, Scott from Colombia, Monty from New York, Eric from downtown San Antonio. Hello, Eric. Thank you for joining us as always. We got Blaine from Seattle, Dave from Colorado, Alex from Switzerland. All right, Alex, thanks for sharing your LinkedIn. It's great to see connect with you after. We have Pat from Edmonton, Canada, David from Brisbane. All right, Brisbane in the house. We got Sebastian from Palma de Mallorca. That sounds from Mexico. Where is that from, Sebastian? Excuse my limitations here on the geography. Alex, welcome as well. And Peter from New York City. Oh, it's from Spain. All right, Alfredo joining us from Spain. We got Andre from Paraguay and everybody else who's joining. Welcome, welcome. Won't be able to name you by name today because there are plenty of you. Again, everything will be broadcasted after this session. Let me just check if George was able to jump on here. Yeah, he's having some technical issues. Today's topic is going to be AI and marketing, the pros, the cons, and also ethical issues surrounding using AI in marketing. Now, as you might know, this event is sponsored by VBOUT. We've been doing it for the past 10 years. We started doing it live in person in New York City, and with COVID, we did it online. That allowed many of you to join us, where before we were limited to a geography. So it's really exciting. We have about 30,000 members in the community, but our reach is over 100,000 combined. So this recording will hit a lot of inboxes. If you haven't joined us on our Facebook group, please do so. There we will announce any events, any future releases of VBOUT, and we have a lot of awesome releases that we just recently announced. And of course, all the recording and the material that we put together will make it available to you to repurpose. Now, as you know, the format is going to be the general intro. It's not going to be more of a presentation as much as a roundtable conversation with Mike, because this is really where the topic of today is going to be. So we won't be having too much slides as we usually do, just questions, and I'll take also your questions if you have any. Now, what is VBOUT? Many of you are already part of our community. You know exactly what we do. But those of you who do not, I'm just going to play this very quick 58 seconds video so you know exactly what we're about.
It's a platform to manage everything in one place. Email and nurture campaigns, visual automations, social media, landing pages, meeting scheduling, lead scoring, pipeline management, and campaign reporting. Make gorgeous emails from scratch or select from dozens of high converting templates. Score the best leads and add them to automations to drive more conversions. Schedule and post to all your favorite social platforms with the best creative from Canva and Pixabay.
Poor audio sound. I see. Thank you for letting me know, guys. I think I forgot to do something important, which is share the audio. Let me share the sound here. Yeah, I don't know why Zoom wouldn't let me. Too many permissions today. How about we skip this? We skip the video. It's okay. But what we're about here at VBOUT is we have built a marketing stack to let you manage the three parts of a marketing campaign. So we have the lead generation tools from landing pages and forms, pop-ups. We also let you create those visual automation builders so you can nurture the leads from the moment you capture them to potentially turn them into customers. And then we have a lot of tools to help you be on top of your brands like social media publishing, email marketing, analytics, and most recently, we announced this last week, conversational AI chatbot. This is literally a year in the making, year plus, and allows you to hook up any of your data sources and turn them into chatbots in under 1 minute. So if you want to inquire more about the VBOUT stack, if you are an agency and you are using a platform to run your digital campaigns, I would love to have a conversation with you. So I'll be sharing a link to our demo page, or I'll put in my email in the chat so you can connect with me direct as well. So here's my email. That's what VBOUT is about. Obviously, we integrate very well, just like and we focus on making the platform simple, affordable. We give you premium support and a lot of built-in AI features already baked into it. So that's it in terms of general intros. I would like to start with today's topic. And I think we finally got George on board. All right, George, let me just get you to a panelist here. Great. Are you in, George? All right, there we go. George helps me moderate the questions on Facebook and everything else. So George is an essential part of these meetings. Cool. So let's dive right in. I know today's topic is dear to me and dear to many of you. But before I start, I would like to just introduce our guest for today. He needs no introduction in the world of AI, particularly in marketing and AI combined. Mike is the Chief Content Officer of the Marketing Artificial Intelligence Institute, or the Marketing AI Institute. He's also a leading voice in exploring the intersections of the two fields, AI and marketing. He's not only an author of the insightful book, Marketing Artificial Intelligence, which we'll leave the link for you to purchase. I've read the book. It's an awesome book if you are in marketing and you want to see how the field is evolving. But he's also a prolific writer, shaping the conversation around AI's impact on marketing. He also have a podcast or events that he is constantly talking about the recent releases, topics, and how it influences your business. And we'll leave a link to that as well. George, please make sure to share those awesome links from Mike or about Mike and the Marketing Institute and the book in the chat, so everybody here joining us can have access to it. Mike, welcome.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's really exciting to be here.
Absolutely. So I'll be asking questions. And please, guys, if you have any feedback, if you want to drop in your questions as well in the chat, feel free to do so. We'll promise to try to get it as much as possible around every single one of them. So far, we're at 69 attendees, plus a whole bunch on Facebook. Yes, it's an awesome attendance so far. So Mike, my first question to you is, what are the top benefits of AI that you're seeing in marketing and business right now?
Yeah, that's a big and very important question for, I think, every marketer, every business to ask. So, for some context, we are primarily kind of an education and event company, and we work with tons of different organizations to help marketers better understand AI's potential in their own career and their own company. And it honestly seems like AI is getting better at more things by the day. There's literally thousands of use cases for artificial intelligence in marketing in every possible area of marketing you can think of. But really, one of the biggest benefits, I would say at a very high level, is we now have a number of intelligent tools that act as essentially cognitive co-pilots to help us increase productivity and dramatically increase our performance. Now, there's a lot of different ways they do that across social media, content creation. We can, SEO, we can kind of talk about specific use cases, but really what we're seeing is that right out of the gate, using some of the tools and models out there, marketers are able to dramatically increase their performance. So I'll give you one concrete example. I'm chief content officer at Marketing AI Institute. So my job includes a lot of content marketing, content creation, content promotion. And we are able to do dramatically more in the same amount of time, thanks to the ability of these tools to do things like understand language, generate language, create ideas, in some cases, process large amounts of information and analyze data and reason through information. It really is like having an incredibly smart human working with you side by side. Sometimes you have to be a little diligent in how you prompt and guide your AI assistant. It doesn't always work exactly like you'd want it to. But as a marketer today, the ability to dramatically scale up the content you create, the promotions you create, and also increase the quality of those by getting better ideas, by finding better ways to personalize and get outcomes, drive positive outcomes in your own marketing. I mean, there's just a legion of benefits to using artificial intelligence today in many, many aspects of your own work.
This is great. And I remember part of your book when you talked about how AI there are 4 phases where phase 1 is just no AI, phase 0, no AI. Phase 1 is when AI is doing like a little tiny bit of work, and humans are doing the majority of work when it comes to marketing campaigns, that is.
Yeah.
Phase 2 is half. Phase 3 is the majority AI and some human. And phase 4 is where it's 100% completely driven AI marketing, right? So where are we today in terms of that?
That's a good question. So this comes from the book that I co-authored with our CEO and founder, Paul Raitzer. And Paul, in that book, outlines what he calls the marketer to machine scale. It's a scale he created a long time ago. I mean, Marketing AI Institute formally started being in business in 2016. So well before kind of the current ChatGPT moment. And for years before that, myself and Paul working together at a marketing agency that he used to own, we had been researching, theorizing, and trying to understand AI for several years before the Institute even started. And the marketer to machine scale was like one of the early frameworks we started looking into for how to understand how much the machine is doing and how much the marketer is doing. So like you mentioned, 0 is all human all the time. 4 rather is all machine, completely autonomous. And I would say we said at the time of writing the book back in, it was 2022, that most solutions are probably a 1 or a 2. They're a bit AI augmented or assisted, but there's still dramatic amounts of humans in the loop. Now, I don't think I would change that assessment. I think we're edging closer to level 3, where there's going to be relatively little human involvement, but there's a lot of obstacles and barriers to that actually happening. I firmly believe at some point we'll get there, but I would say we're probably firmly in territory of level 2, which is somewhat AI assisted, but still a marketer is in the driver's seat for any of the activities you'd be doing using artificial intelligence. Now, a big area here that will be really, really important to keep an eye on is the whole space of AI agents. So we're starting to see really early examples of AI solutions that can go autonomously take actions online on your behalf. It's still really early with those. I mean, there's a lot of high profile demos and examples of those, and they're really cool to watch. But I'd say we're still probably a few years out from those becoming something where it's like you give a command to an intelligent assistant and it can go do every single thing for you perfectly without human review.
And I do remember one of your podcasts, you actually talked about that and a tool that got some funding. Can you give one example of how that particular use case could be? Just like maybe in marketing, let's assume lead generation.
Yeah, so let's play this out a little bit. If you have, typically right now, if I was building, say, a lead generation strategy, creating some lead generation assets and material, or say trying to understand better what leads I'm even trying to target, today I could use a large language model or an AI assistant, like let's say a ChatGPT, GPT-4 or GPT-5, who knows, soon enough here. And I could work hand in hand with it to be like, hey, go do some research for me, tell me about this, help me understand which content to create, help me understand which accounts to go target. So it would be kind of a 50-50 trade-off with my brain working in concert with the machine's brain. But taking it one step further, what we're talking about with AI agents is having a tool where I can go say, hey, here's my ICP, here are the types of companies I want to target. Here are the titles, the roles, and the pain points of that audience. Can you go find me all the areas of possible sources where I can pull email addresses or find leads or where they hang out or what sites they look at the most often? And it will go do all of that and possibly even run campaigns to those audiences. Now, that's quite a ways in the future, I would say. Though this moves so fast, who knows? Maybe next week we'll get it. I'm not sure.
With the
But
AI advances, absolutely. It's too fast.
that's the idea, is that instead of me actually kind of collaborating with the machine, I can actually just give it commands that it can then go execute online.
That's awesome. So it's almost like having a bunch of prompts connected to other tools that were already pretty good at it. So let's say, I'm just going to throw this out there, no affiliation whatsoever. You have ZoomInfo, and for getting the org chart and the leads details. And you have another tool that lets you do some kind of competitive analysis, let's see, SEMrush. And you have all these agents connected to those tools, and it'll be able to pull all that data together based on the prompt that you would identify. So this is sort of what an AI agent would be like. Would that be correct, Mike?
Okay. That's exactly it. That's a really good way of looking at it. It's, essentially chaining together prompts and then the ability of the agents to take actions to produce really interesting outcomes.
That's great. And I feel like with that comes, people are going to exploit these advantages of AI agents. So not only is going to be used for good marketings, my fear is how spammers are going to utilize this to literally just flood the market with, the same exact thing, but with the wrong product and the wrong offer. So that's the exploitive part of AI is huge. Have you seen, I mean, and I understand how, like, we play catch up when it comes to compliance and stuff, right? With AI. Have you seen any companies investing in preventing potential future spam when it comes to these types of agents?
I think people honestly are just waking up to how bad of a problem this is going to be. I think in the last year, we've seen the tip of the iceberg, right? We're all kind of joking a little bit about seeing people using AI to write LinkedIn comments that are annoying and not that valuable. Suddenly, everyone within our companies has become able to write a complete sentence when they weren't in the past. So we know that we're all kind of using ChatGPT and similar tools to generate content. What people, I think, are just starting to realize, especially in the last year with things like audio and video, how easy it now is and how much better even in the next 3 to 6 to 9 months it will be to create hyper-realistic content, messages, video, audio at scale, which then leads to massive problems with spam and fraud. I think, we just covered it in our newsletter in the last week. There's a big Wall Street Journal report that financial services firms alone are scrambling because all your accounts can be voice authenticated. Today, you can now clone someone's voice perfectly using 15 seconds of audio. So if there's one thing to maybe take away from today's webinar, I would turn off voice authentication on your investment accounts. But it is a thing where these traditional ways of preventing fraud or spam or low quality content flooding the market, they're having a really hard time trying to keep up. So I think we're just seeing the very beginning. So I don't really see anyone yet doing a ton to combat that, but they're going to have to move pretty fast.
That's the market right there. So if anybody out there is thinking about building a product in the AI space, it doesn't have to be in on one side of the production, but probably on the prevention. Big opportunities for sure. Another question I have here is, what are some of your favorite tools that you're using or experimenting with right now? I did mention prior to getting started, one of your awesome tools, which I like to share, is the emotional detection. And I can foresee already the huge benefits and the problems of this. But can you share with us some of the favorite tools that you're experimenting with right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll share a couple that I talk about all the time and a couple I'm just kind of recently playing around with that I think are really fascinating for a few reasons. So first up, I think if you're doing any type of marketing knowledge work, let's say, which we all do, I think you have to be using a tool or looking seriously at a tool like Perplexity.ai, which is basically AI powered search. It's a better form of Google powered by AI. I find it far better than Google's AI results today. It is a total game changer in terms of how quick it is to find information online, to quickly follow up on that information and drill down into specific use cases. So instead of a Google search that would traditionally return all your blue links and you have to sort through all those and go through ads and read a bunch of things, this will provide conversational responses. So actually here, I could probably just
I have loaded it as well. I'm going to put in a chat for you guys, so don't worry if you missed the name. It's called Perplexity AI. There is a membership associated with it, by the way, unless you want to use it for some basic stuff. So you have the paid version, Mike?
Yes, I personally have the paid version. I think it just works really well in terms of using better models to process your search, but you can actually get really far with the free version, I would say. So I'm going to click on this, if you can see this, and a bunch of suggested searches will come up. Just beware, these have nothing to do with my search history. These are news items happening right now. So these are just good examples of, okay, oh, here's something interesting. Elon Musk thinks AI outsmarts us by 2026. So it's if I looked up what has Elon Musk said recently about artificial intelligence, what this will do, and this is part of the pro version, it will do multiple searches, find a bunch of different resources, and start citing those sources, giving you the answer, a comprehensive conversational answer to your question. So not only is this immediately just more actionable and useful in terms of doing any type of research or finding anything online, I also find the follow-up questions to be really smart. So you can actually see here, it's using Claude 3 Opus, which is what I have set as the model to use, but it's using one of the top large language models out there to actually go query different information sources and find that in a much more streamlined way, I've found, than traditional Google search. Now, Google's trying to compete with this and bake this into their own results, but so far I just haven't found it to be as seamless. So, we just follow up quickly on different answers. What is artificial general intelligence? And look, it's actually done several different searches here, trying to triangulate in on exactly what I'm trying to learn and give me the context around it. So I find that to be just incredibly useful. While I have this sharing, I can share a couple others real quick. So another cool one, this is more experimental. but it's this tool called AI Journalist. It's from a company called Hyperwrite. So go to hyperwriteai.com. They build all sorts of AI assistants, personal assistants, and writing tools. And they're just a really cool team. We know the founders of the company a little bit, and they're just super smart and building really cool stuff. So what AI Journalist is it'll actually, you just type in a topic. It's suggesting for us Claude 3, which is a new language model that I just talked about. Let's type this in. It's a topic. And this is starting to show some AI agent behavior here. It's still very early, but what it's doing is it's chaining together several prompts and having its AI go research a topic and write an article on it like a journalist would. And it's writing this all in real time, several hundred words, writing a news story automatically about a topic, which then has links to different research and resources that you can click into. So what's cool about this is like a ready-made internal research tool. I mean, we've used this to save hours of time every day, every week on research alone, just to get us started understanding certain topics. So those are two of the ones I've been. Oh, I'm sorry.
So that's so just to kind of take a step back for those who are with us. So Perplexity is to do some general search and get like really concise answers in a nested search format. Resources are quite straightforward right there in front of you. So if you're doing some SWOT analysis or competitive analysis, it will be a great resource for you. But then from there, if you want to develop on the topic, you can come here and write like a whole article the same way that a journalist would. And then now you have the starting point from Perplexity and then the full write-up in Hyperwrite AI. Is that about right, Mike?
That's exactly it. And that's kind of why I picked two of these to show how they complement each other. Because you're absolutely right. You could start with either one as a way to get the material to then dive into with the other tool. It's just an incredible way to kind of stack a couple different tools for any type of, research or information gathering you're trying to do online.
That's great. So this is for marketing. Anything on the lead gen side that we've been using? I know that maybe not necessarily your department. You already have a great inbound. Anything on the lead gen or prospecting side?
Yeah, we don't do a ton right now with prospecting, with AI for prospecting. I know of a couple tools. I'm trying to think of the website of one of them.
Because I know a lot of people already message me right now asking me. So I'm like, okay, I'll ask.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a great question. There's one called GetRev, GETREV.ai. Like I said, we don't have this use case at our company right now, but this is one I've heard about that's using AI to basically figure out which best fit accounts to target. You would also mention tools like ZoomInfo and some others are starting to also bake in certain types of AI powered lead generation or lead related tool or capabilities rather. So definitely I would also look at some of the existing like big players in that space too.
Great. Thank you for sharing these. And I know David is asking, what's the difference between using Gemini in search versus using the Perplexity? If you have a quick answer to that.
Yeah, you certainly could use Gemini as well moving forward.
I use it a lot. I'm definitely a user. I'm paying for it. So get the 3-month free, or you can have a part of your workspace because it integrates with their Google suite of like slides and Excel and stuff. But yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's absolutely a valid way to do this as well. And this is actually, because Gemini is really cool. I've been playing around with it quite a bit too. I'd highly encourage people to check that out. I would say this actually brings up a really important point that we talk about a lot, which is it's really easy to get focused on the latest and coolest new tool because they're really impressive. Like we talk about tools all the time, but we also really encourage people start understanding the use cases you're looking to make possible in your business because there's probably more than one tool that can achieve these things and they improve so quickly. You're probably going to be in a spot where you're testing multiple tools for the same use case as you go over. Like, for instance, in probably, I don't know, 3 to 6 months, we're getting GPT-5 from OpenAI. My guess is that just zeroes out a bunch of other tools that we might have been using before. But realistically, there will be a lot of change and a lot of things to learn when it comes to what that tool can do. But I'm going to be able to just sub that in for the use cases I already have and just do them better. So really having that inventory of your own use cases and your own role, your own organization, independent of the tools that can or that you know do them, having that inventory is really, really, really helpful.
Thank you, Mike. And I know I have a question that's really nice. I'll come back to it at the end because I think it needs a longer response. But I want to ask you kind of like a great segue from this. How do you think businesses should be thinking about use cases for the AI in their companies and functions? You want to get started and how to approach it because it could be overwhelming for the business leaders. So what is your take on that?
Yeah, so typically, especially when just getting started, identifying use cases can be as simple as asking just a few different questions about the stuff that you're already doing. So you want to think about this from like a task oriented list of things that your employees, your teams, your entire organization is doing day in and day out. And you want to ask things like, are these things data driven? Which tasks do you do that require any type of data? If you say, okay, well, these 5 often require data to do them, whether it's reporting or analysis or something else, that may be a really interesting avenue to explore. So if you say, is it data driven? And the answer is yes, I'd put a little check mark next to those tasks on your list. That those are interesting use cases for AI. Is it predictive? Is it making a prediction in some way, which if you really think about it, is basically everything marketers do. I mean, we're always basically making a prediction about something from headlines to campaign forecasting, et cetera. If you have something that is making a prediction, then you probably have an interesting avenue to explore for potential AI use cases. You can also ask, is it generative? Are you generating any type of output? And given the fact the latest category of AI is called generative AI, there are a ton of different tools that I guarantee you, if you're generating an output, AI can help you do it better, faster, and cheaper. And then lastly, is it repetitive? Just like any automation technology, just more so. If you are looking at your list of tasks that you do pretty regularly, and you've got some that are extremely standardized or often follow a similar set of steps, you're probably in a really good position to be able to pretty quickly use AI to maybe not even do the whole thing perfectly, but to augment parts of it, which is why I think it is really worth the time to get very granular about not only the tasks you do, but the subtasks, the pieces of those tasks. Because in many cases, you may not be able to flip a switch and AI can do this for you, but it can dramatically speed up parts of it.
I asked this a colleague of mine who I've known for a long time. He's running his own company. I'm like, how are you adopting AI in your organization? Like, what is your process? And he said, I find the least productive people in my company, and I see how AI is going to replace them, especially if it's like a repetitive kind of process-driven tasks that are very simple, like the search is doing, going to step 1, I want to parse this prompt. Step 2, I want to write. Step 3, I want to create a chart. So that was a funny response, a little cruel, but it's the reality of things. Is that a lot of these companies are starting where tasks are repetitive, people are not being as productive, and they're replacing them with AI. That's unfortunate, but it's true.
And the positive aspect of that too, I would say, the flip side is that there are so many ways, and we found this in our own kind of small company. We've heard of plenty of companies figuring this out as well, is that you also can give a lot of the people at your company superpowers. So the developer, the
Yes.
marketer who's really good at their job can suddenly do a bunch of things they were not able to do before, or do many more things, you know? So there's definitely two sides of the coin, but yeah, I think you can absolutely, in many cases, be really enhancing what your people do.
100% agree. So if you are a marketer, understanding how to leverage this technology to optimize your work as a marketer, it doesn't matter what position you're in, if you're on the content side, if you're on the technology side, if you're on the branding, whichever it may be, you need to have that on your resume, and that's going to make you indispensable in the company, not necessarily replaceable. So, Mike, I have a couple of follow-up on the tool side. I know people here love tools. I have Lord Zoom, John, who's always with us. Thank you, John, as always. Are there any tools that allow you to start developing your own AI bot to perform multiple prompt operations? So I'm assuming that could be in the line of the agents.
Yeah,
Do you have a name, Mike, you can share?
That's the first thing I was thinking, is you want to look into any type of AI agent for the use case that you're trying to achieve. I would start with a lot of the agents that Hyperwrite, that we had talked about before, is developing. They seem to be releasing them like every other week. So they're a leader in this space, I would say, in terms of experimentation. So they
Hyperwrite.
Hyperwrite. So yeah, the website would be, let me grab the exact, I think it's hyperwriteai.com.
Put the link for everybody, by the way, in the chat.
So I would start with them. They have a number of different personal assistant kind of agents. Also, it's not totally what we would call an AI agent yet, but there are ways to start, and you would need a little more development expertise than I personally have to go down this rabbit hole. But, you know, custom GPTs, using ChatGPT, you can start to include actions in those. And I would fully expect that's where we're going with the custom GPTs, is their ability to actually string together different prompts and perform operations for you online. So that might be something to start getting really familiar with as well.
Thank you for sharing. And I have Effie Johns asking about the best AI for image creation and branding. My personal response would be Canva's doing great, but do you have any other suggestions, Mike?
Yeah, Canva is absolutely crushing it. I think that's a really good start, especially because it's just very easy to use and get started with. Image creation, I tend to like, for pure image creation, I think Midjourney is still really, really, really impressive. But we're getting really good image generation across many of the different tools out there. I think also I've heard Adobe is worth checking out, just because they do have such interesting image editing tools and expertise. Some of the stuff, and they're also putting a lot of effort into, from my understanding, into image generation that's not going to get you sued, because it was actually legally and ethically trained on, at least by their reckoning. So I think that's also worth looking at. So I'd check out what Adobe's up to these days as well.
And I know in the past event that we've done a couple of months back, I shared an example how Adobe is doing it. So it's great. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the obstacles. You know, companies get excited about AI. The marketing team gets together with the C-level execs and they decide we're going to adopt these tools, with AI to help us improve our marketing. What kind of obstacles do you see from companies that they struggle with?
Yeah, so not every company has as many problems as I'm about to mention, and not every company struggles with all these, but some of the common things we see. So you had mentioned, marketing and the executives and leadership getting together and saying, okay, let's use AI. The step before that is a huge obstacle, because in a lot of huge organizations we've worked with, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. There are departments that are trying to move forward with AI either in a silo, or because they didn't realize anyone else in their organization was, actively experimenting with it. So being siloed, not having a cohesive overall AI roadmap, policies, and strategy is a very, very, very common challenge. So then you end up having, we've encountered time and time again, there's like teams that find out they spent 6 months trying to get a tool through procurement, but another team's already bought it. Just like kind of horror stories. So I think from the start, not having kind of an overall, let's call it like an AI council or overall like cross-disciplinary initiative to implement AI in some way is a huge, huge challenge. And it takes a long time to get to that. So it's a challenge for a reason. It's hard to do. I would also say that's the top-down piece. The bottom-up piece is really important. I think people, we're all really, I think, tech savvy and tech forward marketers here and business people. So to us, we get geeked out about this stuff. We're probably following it pretty closely. So it feels like everyone in the world should know about everything we're geeked out about with AI. But I'm here to tell you, your average person doesn't. 99% of people today still have maybe heard of ChatGPT on a news story or like maybe played around a little bit with the free version. Now, the reason that's important is because that includes every person at your company. So your small forward-thinking organization may be an exception, that's fair. But at bigger organizations, there's not enough thought given to the fact that the people that you're getting excited about bringing AI to literally might not even know what this technology is, what it can do. They may freak out immediately that it's going to take their jobs, or they may just honestly still be under the misapprehension that it's the Terminator or something. You genuinely don't know what baseline level of understanding your average employee has. So having an actual communication strategy and then an education strategy to even get your team up to whatever you would consider baseline. Forget before you even teaching skills. I'm talking like a baseline. Here's what AI is. Here's what we're aiming to do with it. And here's how hopefully it will benefit you to be involved with it. That's another huge challenge. So really policies, guidance / strategy / direction, and then education are three huge, huge challenges.
And Richard Butler asked, how would you teach AI to your team? That's a good question.
It's a very good, well, we've spent about 7 years trying to answer that question at Marketing AI Institute. That's our whole business. It does start with what I just said. You actually do need a baseline for the team. Even I would argue, even if you think your team is in a certain place, there's probably some people who are lagging behind or people who have different perspectives on AI and what it is. So I think establishing a baseline education. And then typically what we teach is, like I said before, for most organizations, the easiest way to get started is going to be identifying narrowly defined use cases that have tangible impact in people's individual jobs. That's not the only thing you have to do, but to get started quickly, you want to take people from that baseline education to understanding, oh, here's how I can use these tools, or start experimenting with using them to make my job more impactful, more productive, and more effective. So those two things I actually think can get you very, very far. But at a higher level, you do need to be doing things like overall building an AI roadmap so you actually know how your business is going to change because of these tools. That's going to dictate what you teach and how you teach it. And then also, I think it's a good idea to begin starting to think about AI impact assessments. So doing basically evaluating how is AI going to fundamentally change and alter and potentially augment or automate aspects of all the jobs in your organization, because that will have a big impact on not only what you teach or what you want to have employees learning, but also how they're receptive to it. Because again, if we're sitting here saying, hey, we're going to train you to use AI to replace you, that's probably not going to be a very motivated student to learn that.
Understood. So I guess to summarize this very important question, there's a lack of knowledge on the kind of top level about the topic and the impact, and on the actual training. And there need to be some sort of an initiative in the company to understand the impact of it, to have a roadmap and a clear understanding of how this will reshape that particular business long term. And I believe you can use probably AI itself to answer a lot of these questions about your business in recursive way. So
that's a really good point, actually, because what you have that nobody else does is the contextual understanding and insight into your own business, right? So using one of these models or tools, um, you could get very, very far by explaining, hey, here's what I'm trying to do and understand. Here is all the information I can think of that's relevant about the role, about the department, about our business, and then start having a conversation from there. So you can get, it's a very creative way to do it. I think that would be really valuable as an exercise.
thank you for that. What are you most excited about in AI development, particularly in the field of marketing?
So when it comes to what I'm most excited about, I go back to the idea of that I think I briefly mentioned it at the start of this, that AI is a cognitive co-pilot. I cannot tell you the amount of things that I should be doing in a day that I don't have time for, or the number of problems I know our business needs to solve that I don't always have the intelligence on my own, or even within our team, or even with a bunch of research online to actually understand and solve. I will tell you, just like in my own job in the last 12 months, the amount of things I have learned, the amount of things I've been able to do as a marketer, and the amount of things I've been able to solve for our business using working in tandem, side by side with AI assistance has been breathtaking. And it's really just the beginning. I mean, even projects I don't do very much coding at all. I know basically nothing about programming except, at a very high level. And I've been actually able to spin up different tools, projects, do things I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. In
Yeah.
terms of ideation and strategy, I just have higher quality ideas because I'm able, someone put in here actually to, the winners will be those that can ask AI the right questions. That's so exciting to me because I'm really good at asking really good questions. Getting the answers is the hard part. So, working with these tools as true cognitive co-pilots is truly the most remarkable, exciting, and positive thing, in my opinion.
That's great. And I know at VBOUT, we've been really highly focused on, the trends to replace repetitive tasks or things that a lot of businesses lack. For example, the AI chatbot component is conversational AI, multi-channel. We saw a lot of businesses not leveraging, let's say, their social media channels effectively. They get questions, they get comments, and although they do answer them, they don't turn those people into potential, brand ambassadors or leads. So we're starting from that conversational AI to help those brands augment their social media presence, but also to capture leads online. When it comes to email, in our case, we have the predictive models that detects the best time to send out emails. And although we included the ability to write up the emails, we've seen companies prefer to still write their own. Because believe it or not, you can see AI when content is generated by AI. Unless you put so much spin on it, then when it comes to email, it makes no sense to just have 15 different prompts to, identify. Like, might as well just write up that small paragraph instead of having 15 prompts. You know what I mean? So we've seen those trends, and I'm most excited about particularly is the ability for companies to find the right lead ICP more effectively and to target them over the right channel with the right message. This is sort of where I foresee things, be it some things we'll build in VBOUT or maybe, other players on the market. So watch out for that. All right, a couple more questions. One is, what are some of the legal and ethical concerns you see companies navigating around AI? This is a big topic for sure.
Huge topic. So I'll start the answer to this like I start every answer. I am not a lawyer, and you should talk to one. Is step one, because IP attorneys and people that can provide AI legal advice are going to be the most in-demand human job probably in the next decade, because there's so many complications and issues that are in flux here. So I think one really important thing to understand is that if you're in the US, and I apologize, I don't know anything about copyright in other countries, so you will have to check in your own country how this plays out. So I know we have a lot of people here who are non-US, but in the US at least, the US Copyright Office, the current guidance that we've seen is that if you use generative AI to say, write a book, you don't own the copyright to that book.
Really?
That doesn't mean you can't publish the book. You could go ahead and do it. But if I go and buy the book and copy and paste it into my own book and you try to sue me, our understanding is that as of right now in the US, that would not, you do not have copyright to that work. So that's a really important consideration. It doesn't invalidate at all the benefits that generative AI can provide. It just is a big consideration in terms of what you are and are not using technology today for in the US. Now, it's very different in other countries. I think Japan actually is quite the opposite, where they say like everything's kind of fair use now and AI can use it. However, that's kind of consideration one. Consideration two is how it's going to play out with all the major AI companies. So we're in the midst of a number of lawsuits and considerations around, were these models trained legally? The answer, the jury's out quite figuratively on that right now. The courts are going to decide that, but you do need to understand that your use of these tools, in some cases, you could end up violating other people's copyright, or at least ethically, be using something that was trained in the wrong way. And that has, at least optical impact on your own brand and on your own work. So I think kind of educating yourself a little bit on those issues is really important. Those are two of the big ones: copyright, and then how the models were trained and what happens because of how they were trained is going to have big, big ripple effects in the world of AI.
And I remember how the New York Times was suing OpenAI because it was referring back into an article that they wrote. And then OpenAI sued back that, no, you manipulated the prompt in a way to generate it so it looks exactly like you have written it. So it's almost like there are no hard laws right now on everything AI. So it's the wild, wild west. And people are using, I mean, I've seen ads right now for politicians, right? Just mimicking because you can upload a video of anybody and you can do deep fakes all day, and even the voice itself. I've seen a lot of ads with Jeff Bezos promoting a product, like a mediocre product that's not really the product itself. I mean, I've seen it in sports where you have like somebody just saying something about the opposing team, and you can see thousands and even in some cases hundreds of thousands of comments. And if you read through them, people really think this is real. Like this is an actual endorsement by Jeff Bezos to that crappy product, or it's I don't know, uh, Messi saying something about another player. Like you know what I mean? That's concerning. But I mean, there are no hard laws, and I think we just ought to protect our own organizations and ourselves first, and understanding also the content that's being written. And I want to focus on content because so far that's the majority of like successful use of AI in marketing. But the content that's being written, I think, needs to be vetted. And you want to see the quality adopted to your brand. And just like Therese is asking, that some blogs have been putting like, this has been written by an AI assistant.
Yep.
Like, is this something that you do recommend ethically to tell others that the way that you are pushing content is with the use of AI? What do you think, Mike?
So this kind of comes back to every organization really needs, whether it's internal or public facing, some type of generative AI policy. And that can be as simple as like a very rough draft document that answers a few big questions. So one, like what is our staff or our people or our partners allowed to use AI for that is public facing kind of under our brand name? I mean, internally too, I guess, but public facing is probably the more immediate concern. What can we use this stuff for? How should we be using it ethically? Like, just because we can, does that mean we should? And then to Teresa's question, do we have to disclose if we use it? I think that's a brand by brand choice, because honestly, I think I would feel personally like I would want to know if someone was just writing straight up every article with AI. If they used AI for ideation, maybe headline variations, I don't know if personally to me it would matter that much if I knew that. So I think there is a brand by brand element here, but I think you just have to have an answer to the question internally, because again, your employees are not going to solve this on their own. Half of them are probably using things in ways they're probably not supposed to be using it already because they just don't know some of the risks. But also, there needs to be actual concrete guidance within your company of how this should and shouldn't be used and what you're going to tell people about that.
Right. That's a great answer. And now when it comes to trends to watch for when it comes to AI, moving forward, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to tie together a couple comments we've actually seen here. So first, a couple people had mentioned Sora, which is OpenAI's pretty stunning AI video generation tool. We've only really seen kind of some initial demos, but as people already
Yes.
freaking out.
Any idea when they're launching it?
I'm not sure exactly when it's going to the general public, because right now they're kind of in talks, among other people, with Hollywood to try to get them to start using it. So I think they're trying to lock in the motion picture industry, maybe, and VFX and all that. So I'm not sure actually when that's supposed to happen. I would assume sometime this year. It would be shocking if that didn't happen, given all the hype around it. So any type, the video generation, I think this is probably the year where you really start to reach like takeoff point where you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize this was so good so quickly. You know, it's taken a while to get to this point. Who knows how long it takes to actually go into production or if it will be adopted by brands, but I think I would bet on getting dramatically better video generation for longer sets of videos in the next 12 months would be my guess. Someone also mentioned artificial general intelligence, it's a way bigger topic, but like you do need to realize that right now, the capabilities of some of these, at least large language models, are functionally like doubling every year. So you have to really start planning. This is again why I'm going to harp on this, but why use cases, starting with use cases is so important, because what you do today that you want to use AI for, it may not be possible but today, but there's a very good chance in 12 months it becomes much, much, much more possible. So you have to be almost ready, almost skating to where the puck is going versus where it is right now in terms of use cases. So I would fully, and then the third one would be AI agents. I think in the next few years, you're going to start seeing a lot more autonomous AI programs that are able to take far more action online without humans. That'll create a whole host of problems, but it'll be interesting also to experiment with.
I'll add music as well, because music can be marketing.
Yes. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, Suno AI, go check that out if you haven't already. We were talking about that, right? It's incredible. I mean, it's one of the most stunning immediate displays of AI's capabilities you'll ever see. Go try it out.
Suno.ai. I'll drop in
Yes.
Suno.ai. I've used it and I was just it's great. I didn't expect it to be as good because I tried the model by Facebook. They had released something.
Yeah.
And it was so bad. I was like, it's way too far. But
Yeah.
Suno kind of nailed it. And more to come, I'm sure. I'm waiting for their API so we can generate bulk music for prospecting and others, right? I created
You're
this
gonna
song
get
for you, you know?
right. I guarantee you'll start seeing that.
Yes. Awesome, awesome. Well, these are my questions. I have a few from the audience here, if you don't mind. You have a few more minutes, Mike? I know we're coming close.
Absolutely.
All right. The first question, which was asked earlier by Alice Heck, how do you see the role of marketing operations evolving with AI being used for marketing, sales, and customer success?
Yeah, so and as part of this, I was looking at what Alice was asking. I was kind of like talking about, okay, you know, given that all these teams are going to have to, if I'm reading this correctly, hopefully I am, that given that all these teams are going to be having to orchestrate with each other because they're all drawing from the same data and tools, because that's how AI is going to work across the organization. How is this going to work? Are these roles going to stay separate? Are they all going to merge? You know, honestly, I don't know how this is going to play out, because what we're seeing already is that, and this is just some enterprises, I'm not sure if it's everybody, we're seeing that a lot of companies kind of default to saying, oh, okay, AI, that's, you know, sci-fi technology, that's IT's problem or department. And it's like IT is critical to this, but so is marketing, so is sales, so is customer success, so is legal, so is whoever. So I think that organizations are going to have to get way less siloed if they're going to effectively apply this stuff. That's really the only kind of directional bet I have. And I think that's also what's leading to it being so difficult for some of these organizations to pivot fast enough, because everything is so siloed. These teams are not used to working together. So I think I don't really have a great answer here, but I think you're at least asking the right question, I would say, because the fundamental structure of organizations over time will probably have to change quite a bit, given that AI is not just something you're deploying. I mean, at least long term for organizational transformation, it's not something you're deploying in a few departments. It's going to be at the very DNA of the entire organization.
Right. And that's why having a committee of some sort is quite critical.
Yeah.
I'm sure marketing understands this the most. Probably sales come after because they need to write scripts and emails. But I think the role of the marketing ops is how to glue all these departments together, just like you said, and how to ethically use it based on, you know, the C-level's view and vision of it. So thanks for that. How can AI assist low-income entrepreneurs? Anonymous attendee question.
Well, I'm not an entrepreneur, but my guess would be in a lot of ways, because there's probably a lot of things that you don't have time to get to, or that you'd like help doing, that artificial intelligence tools, my guess would be, can probably help with. I mean, everything from writing prospecting emails to creating content to generating imagery to even acting just as a strategy and ideation assistant. I would imagine there's probably a lot of things that maybe you can't click a button and automate things you would have to hire for. But there's probably, I would probably start with things on my list that I usually don't get to, you know, as an entrepreneur, and try to start there.
It's a great answer. I mean, you have the capability of doing like a 5 people work with $20 a month, or let's say 40 if you have multiple of these tools. Good answer. Peter's asking, Peter Burson from WSI, what about uploading docs to ChatGPT? Should we worry about those documents being available for future models, and is it safe?
The question, is it safe, is dependent, unfortunately, on a few factors. The first one depends on the tool and the license you have. So certain licenses of ChatGPT claim that, like the team and the enterprise licenses claim that your data is protected and is not used to train models. Question number 2 becomes, do you trust the company telling you that? Hopefully, they're not doing anything shady, but it's just the question you have to ask. But 3, this is also like another really important reason that your company should have generative AI policies, because your employees, I would venture to say, many of them don't realize that sharing documents and information with these tools means that that information might go to a third-party server, thus violating many different types of NDAs or confidentiality you have in place if you do. And they probably don't always realize that it can be used to train future models. Now, I mean, we've seen like some horror stories of this already happening. People getting like fired because they didn't realize, oh, I put like code into ChatGPT that you're not allowed to share at your company, or things like that. So I would say it totally depends. There are solutions that claim to be able to protect that data and be able to use it without violating any of your privacy or data restrictions, but it's case by case. And your company needs to have policies around that, about what people can and can't do after you've kind of explored that.
That's great. And I've seen some forward-thinking agencies actually include a clause in their terms saying that some of the information about the businesses we're gonna, like the engagement between the business and the agency, some of that data is going to be uploaded to the model, just in case things surface in the future and some details about the business kind of appear, they have that disclaimer, because you don't know what's public and what's not. But if you read the term, or maybe ask the model itself, would it answer?
Yeah, and then double check that answer.
Exactly. I have maybe one or two more questions here and we can wrap up. Thank you so much. So we got no questions on Facebook so far, so that's good. Scott is asking, are you aware of any online directory of AI applications that have API access?
I'm not off the top of my head. I'm seeing a lot of directories of overall AI tools pop up. Like one that comes off the top of my head is, I think it's called futuretools.io. I don't know if they say if they have a way to filter it by API access though. So that might be something you'd have to check out if they have a filter for that based on the directory. But that one's got a lot of different tools to look at as well.
Yeah, there are tons of resources, guys. Sometimes I go to Gemini, it has a little bit more up-to-date kind of responses on
Yeah.
some of these directories and things. And like last time I was trying to restore data that I lost on a hard drive and I couldn't find the right tool to do it. And Gemini was able to give me a response. I mean, it got me the software I'm looking for. I paid for it. I restored my data. So I guess finding the tools that you need, you can use Gemini, in my opinion. ChatGPT seems to be a little bit kind of not up to date on the tools available because Google is a better search overall. But
Yeah.
that's all for that. I don't have any more questions here. George, final questions on your side? Anything that I've missed?
No, Richard, all good.
All right. Well, Mike, this was great. We will be sharing the recording with everybody in our community. Tell us where can we find you? I know we'll put the link to the book. We'll put the link to your website so people can opt in to your Spotify. George, please put them back here. But where can they find you or connect?
Yeah, sure. So first, if you haven't already, check out marketingaiinstitute.com. Our website is pretty clear on the resources, education, events we do, the podcast. Please check out anything that you're unfamiliar with. We've been spending 7 years creating hopefully a really great resource hub online for marketers and businesses. And then, yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I think George put the link in there. Please feel free to reach out, connect with me, message me. That's probably the place, the social network I'm most active on. So that's a good way to get in touch. So feel free to do so.
Thank you, Mike. And I know a lot of people are branding themselves as experts in AI, but I can vouch in this case that Mike has been way ahead of the game, and nobody is better to follow than somebody who's actually written a book about the topic. So highly recommend you follow Mike. I've been a fan for a few years already, and all the resources you guys have been pushing to the Institute, your webinar, I'm a big fan. So thank you for that. And thanks for coming to our session today.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks everyone who attended. We'll be resuming our meetings also. We have a partners meeting on VBOUT this month. And next month, we'll have another awesome topic coming your way. So please stay tuned. And thanks again for joining us wherever you're joining from. All right. Bye, Mike. Bye, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.